can't believe Christmas is almost tomorrow.
It's so exciting.
I'm so excited.
I want the cannoli. I want all the cannoli.
Oh, I want an espresso maker.
Yeah.
What the grandpapa?
It's time to calm down. It's time for a bedtime.
But the grandpapa.
Papa, we cannot go to bed without the break in that story.
Oh, you want a story? Are you ungrateful little wretches?
We do. Tell us a story from when you were our age. A Christmas story.
So you want to hear the adventures of my youth, do you?
Oh,
Yes,
indeed,
grandpapa.
Well, indeed. Well, okay. Let us begin at the beginning, as it were, in England. The story begins back in 1750, when my family first took a trip to England. We visited Liverpool, London, and the great wonders of Scotland. We travelled on the new canals and watched the iron and coal being brought down from the large deposits in Wales and northern England. Ah, great times. My parents then proceeded to leave me there. My father yelled to me from the boat as he left, "You never had the noodle dream." "But Papa, how will I survive?" I yelled back at my father. "We have arranged for an apprenticeship. Come back to us when you have received the dream." I yelled back at them, "I will not fail you, Papa." I needed to appear strong, like my mother's espresso.
The espresso was strong indeed. 'Tis how we lost little Lorenzo.
Like a natural reaction. What are you doing?
Britain was the center of the Industrial Revolution because of the expanding Atlantic economy and a large colonial empire for goods. Their canals and rivers allowed for easy transport of industrial supplies. Britain was also free of internal tariffs following Adam Smith's theory of laissez-faire economics to manifest. The agricultural revolution created an England ready for the Industrial Revolution as well. All of these factors led to the development of a suitable economy strong enough to support the Industrial Revolution. In order to survive by myself, I needed my own stable source of income, and as market interest in what was left of my linguine waned, I turned to the factories. Factories were a relatively new system at the time, responding to the pressure of growing demand. Replacing the new obsolete cottage industry, it led to an all-new style of manufacturing. By sacrificing good working conditions and introducing new technologies, factories quickly rose to the top as the primary source of manufactured goods, along with improving the economy by lowering the prices of textiles and other luxury goods. The price of cotton goods fell significantly, and luxuries such as body linen or underwear became available for a much wider group of people. However, due to the poor factory conditions, most laborers shied away. This led to use of child labor, punctuated by the exploitation of orphans and foundlings. As I mentioned earlier, a large contribution to the growth of the factory system came from the technical innovations in the cotton industry. I met many of these men during my time in England. I met James Hargreaves and Richard Arkwright in a dark alley.
Hey guys, I don't want any trouble.
Hey kid, you wanna buy some Molly?
What else you got?
I got some Jenny too. Spinning Jenny. Inexpensive, simple, perfect for a first timer.
Well, I'm new to the textile industry.
It's the most efficient way to spin thread. My buddy here, Richard's got some stuff for you too.
Hey buddy, you wanna buy a water frame? It requires a specialized factory that can spin an unprecedented amount of thread, which can be refined later by certain individuals in possession of the spinning jenny.
Wouldn't want anything bad to happen to you if you couldn't spin an adequate amount of thread in a certain period of time, would we now?
Yeah, your weavers need to be able to keep up with production, man.
I'm just gonna go.
Come and get it.
I worked at one of these factories for many months, making linen after linen. The hours were long and the work tiring. I had time for little else. One day, I arrived to the factory doors and my master was waiting for me. My master said, "You've been transferred to the coal mines. I can't take another day of your pasta innuendos." As the 17th century ended, fuel became of ever more concern. The once vast forests of England had long ago been replaced with farmland and wood and charcoal, while important, were scarce. Due to this lack of resources, many industries were stagnating. However, as the energy crisis reached its peak, Britain had begun to use coal to address its lack of energy. My master said, "Now off you go, you street scum. You're someone else's problem now." Coal was used to heat homes and make glass, soaps, and beer. Coal was not used to power factories, however, as the early steam engines were inefficient converters of heat energy to mechanical energy. As I soon learned, the coal mines were dangerous, expensive, and bothersome, using complex mechanical pumps and horsepower. My new employer aspired to repair these issues, a man by the name of Thomas Newcomen. Thomas Newcomen invented one of the first steam engines in 1705, only a few years after Thomas Savery built his in 1698. By the 1770s, both varieties of steam engine were widely used while still inefficient. Only in 1769, after a brilliant young Scot named James Watt redesigned the engine's inefficient design to an unprecedented level of output, did the engine begin its use in mines and the factories, particularly the iron industry, allowing extremely high outputs. The steam engine will give England the power to grow economically in an astounding way. In the second half of the 18th century, there was a large increase in the construction of hard, smooth roads. I greatly enjoyed the riding on these roads, and they were mostly used by passenger traffic because land transportation of goods was still very difficult and expensive, with most of the trade and shipment of goods happening by boat or barge on the wet and wild rivers and canals. Some inventors had attempted to use steam cars, but they were damaging to streets and frightened horses. Rails had been used to haul coal and iron in mines because it allowed a person or horse to carry more. In 1816, a rail was developed that could support a large locomotive, opening and widening up the field of experimenting with steam-powered rail vehicles. As time went on, I met a man named George Stephenson, and he was an inventor.
A good shot, sir.
Greetings, young lad. My name is George Stephenson, magnificent inventor and pioneer of the steam-driven locomotive.
That's a bit too early, don't you think?
How about the man blaster, capable of blasting men and goods at unprecedented speed?
It's fairly dirty. What about rocket? Nice and simple and classic.
Ooh, perfect.
The new railroads dramatically reduced the costs and risks of overland shipment. As transportation costs are lowered, markets and businesses could become more nationwide. This encouraged the growth of larger factories and more advanced machinery. The demand for labor in factories and on the railroads led to the growth of a new class of urban workers. So, this part was pretty hard to explain, so we're just gonna have Jeremy explain it to you guys. Enjoy, ladies.
Should we get my clothes back if I read this?
Maybe.
Well, much of Europe in the late 1700s and early 1800s was not as advanced as the industrially superior English. This can be observed through the per capita levels of industrialization. Per capita is a style statistic that compares the amount of industrial goods outputted on average to each person in a given country in a given year. If you observe the chart in 1750, all the European countries were close together, and England was only slightly ahead of France and the rest of Europe. By 1800, and as the 1800s progressed, Britain had accelerated and remained more industrialized than all of the world until 1913. Variations in timing and the extent of industrialization are important factors to account for in viewing of Europe's industrial development. While Britain shot up in per capita, France had a steady and gradual increase that few historians consider revolutionary. Germany and America both rose dramatically after 1860, and America surpassed even England by 1913. Overall, the following result was apparent. All of Europe, as well as the United States, Canada, and Japan, per capita industrial levels managed to rise during the 19th century. while most non-Western countries per capita either stayed the same or decayed. Any questions? I'm looking at you, far right corner. I got my clothes back now, right?
No.
The year is 1789, and I have just received news of the storming of the Bastille. It is no surprise to a seasoned professional such as myself. However, the European economy was not as experienced as I was. Pity, for when the revolution hit France, it hit the entire continent. The spirit of the French Revolution disrupted trade, caused inflation, and fed social anxiety. The industrial boom that was going on in the sad, grey country where I was working was not spreading to the other parts of Europe. Fast forwarding, the year is 1810 and Napoleon had conquered most of Europe. I myself found the man lacking in any apparent talent, but he had done what my great ancestor Caesar had done. Anyways, the year is 1810, and despite the economic privileges Napoleon gave to France, when I went gallivanting there in the summer, I saw no sign of industrialization. This was a period of crisis for Europe. This was due to a number of factors. Britain, though dreary and utterly lacking in any culinary skill, had come to dominate the world markets, while the other European countries were busy fighting each other. Britain had also gained the upper hand in technology, making it nigh impossible for any countries to understand any diagrams that made it over the channel. The last factor was that steam technology had become extremely expensive. Most local government investors were too suspicious to invest in something so costly and unknown.
It's okay, Grandpapa, I'm still listening to you.
You're always my favorite to Giuseppe.
However, after Napoleon's reign came to an end and that bastard Metternich re-established control over our beautiful country, Europe began to catch up. Many of these European countries were wealthy and had skilled guilds that could put out goods and adapt to the changing economy. Many countries were also able to borrow technology from the British, wretched capitalist dogs that they were. Lastly, these independent governments were able to avoid foreign control and establish healthy economies.
So as I was again, Giuseppe basta zitto!
Eventually, I grew tired of England. I longed to return to my homeland and family, and so I escaped the dreary island along with a few men with high dreams of an industrial revolution in Europe and of profit. Coincidentally, I became quite familiar with the agents through which industrialization was spread out of Britain. Aboard the ship that I left on were two such extraordinary men, William Cockerill and Fritz Harcourt. They often told me of their plans as we sipped on tomato sauce, the boat gently rocking beneath our feet.
So what brings you boys out here?
Oh, greetings. I'm a Lancashire carpenter, and me and my son are going to build cotton spinning machines. In French-occupied Belgium. My son John, his plans afterward to acquire the summer palace of the old Bishop of Liege, and he's going to make the place into the most poppin' industrial enterprise, producing all sorts of mad machinery, as well as ironworks and steam engines and locomotives. And it'll be so modern it'll blow your mind.
I was a Prussian army officer. I will bring industrial wizardry back to Germany, starting in an abandoned castle where I will produce steam engines in the Ruhr Valley. They will call me the Watch of Germany. You'll see, you'll all see.
While he did gain fame for a short while, after 16 years we did see him fail. Mamma mia, did he fail. The cost of having to import all of the skilled workers and materials proved to be too great of a burden on investors who forced him out of his own company to reduce losses. When we dropped the young Fritz off in Germany, we picked up another rambunctious German in return, a journalist by the name of Friedrich List. He gave us his book, National System of Political Economy, and lectured to us nightly over dinner, preferring his own Wiener Schnitzel to my linguine.
Economic nationalism. The British only spread that free economic crap, so we are swindled like swine, unable to compete with their industry. Countries must erect roads, bridges, and railroads at the state expense, but to the benefit of their native industries. Economic nationalism.
Eventually, my own journey finally ended. It was long, and it was not by choice. I did, however, learn more than I ever thought possible and was witness to history. I was there as the Industrial Revolution exploded into being, much like the defective missiles used in Ethiopia. In fact, I returned to my hometown on Christmas Eve, and that night, after my family welcomed me back, instead of visions of sugar plums dancing in my head, it was rigatoni and linguini that circled in ballet. I had received the noodle dream. 'Twas a Christmas miracle.
It is a bedtime now. You have been a good little wretches. Maybe Krampus come tomorrow after. Go.
Okay, Grandpapa. Okay, Grandpa. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Get some rest, Sealer. You look tired.